Oh my God, it's so good to see all of you. Everything
It's
is so
amazing.
amazing. Oh, does this feel good?
Feels
Yeah.
great.
Ooh, you know what? I don't want to hear anything bad at all for the next half an hour. Forget that. That is not what we're doing today. We have called today's show, myself, Melanie Marshall, and
Dr.
Dr.
Heather
Heather,
Collins.
Dr. Heather Collins. We've called today's show Toxic Pollyanna, Why Good Vibes Only is Bad Leadership. And that is because we both hate hearing people force toxic positivity upon themselves, their families, their workplaces, the world, as the solution to everything. It's not. All of the things that we are looking for, happiness, productivity, better solutions to the problems out there, are not a result of relentless positive thinking. And I say this as someone who is out there going on about hope, yip yapping about hope all the time. There is a difference.
Yip-yapping.
I yip yap. When we talk about Pollyanna is, as far as I know, I was like, let's do Pollyanna, because Pollyanna to me is a pop culture reference to someone who just could not do anything except look on the bright side. But Dr. Heather, there's more.
Well, there is more. For a lot of our viewers, they may not know that Pollyanna, that phrase in pop culture, actually comes from a 1960s movie called Pollyanna, starring Hayley Mills, whom you may know from the original Parent Trap movie. And shortly after that, it migrated into the realm of psychological research, in which researchers actually wanted to know, hey, this little girl Pollyanna, who really is overly positive, is this an actual thing? Does this really happen? Can we characterize it in a scientific way? And yes, we can. And so it began, and they have shown over decades that people tend to remember positive words and positive experiences better than negative ones. And this led to then Pollyanna syndrome, where people actually have a maladaptive coping mechanism in which they have to tell themselves everything will be okay all the time in an irrational way. And that's what we've come to know as toxic Pollyanna.
But it's really common right now in culture, right? Like that's some deep cut. That's some Hayley Mills deep cut. And but that which was this syndrome, right, which is like, something to be studied, has become really common in culture, where a lot of us are told that the solution is just to be more positive. And I feel like I'm always trying to explain to people that when I am talking about optimism and hope, I am not talking about pretending that there aren't bad things happening in the world, because that is just being delusional. And to me, being delusional, like relentless positivity, or I think you used the term, what was the term you used just as we were coming on air?
Oh, is that relentless versus rational or irrational positivity?
Yeah, relentless versus rational or irrational positivity. Yeah, it was your term, which I loved. And like, that is very different. And I think we've got this notion that has become almost just like accepted wisdom, that if you want to succeed, then actually you need to be a Pollyanna. And I don't think it's true, based on my experience out in the world, seeing people deal with really hard things and get through them. I mean, obviously you need to be positive, but what is the cost to our brain of pretending everything is okay?
Yeah, there are a lot of consequences that we've seen in the research world as a result of toxic Pollyanna. First of all, when you believe everything has to be viewed through this lens of positivity, you actually dysregulate your brain's amygdala, and your emotions get out of whack, because you're training yourself to think that I can only feel this one positive emotion, this one thing. That's the only thing that's okay to feel. And that means that you're not allowing yourself to experience a whole range of other emotions that can help you cope, like negativity when it's appropriate, fear, anger, disappointment, confusion, There are so many other emotions that help us cope with what's happening in the world. And if you only allow yourself to experience one, you're not going to be able to cope.
So when you said that about dysregulating, I think that's, you said amygdala, my favorite brain part, thanks to working with you. When we are in situations where other reactions are appropriate. So for example, I've been in situations where we're trying to decide if we go further, right? You're looking up a road where, okay, maybe there's a few bad guys. And the question is this safe? Can we travel? Whether or not we should go. And I don't want to hear from a colleague, yeah, you know what's going to be great. Don't worry, like think positive. Like think positive has zero impact on a jihadi checkpoint and their desire to kidnap me. It doesn't. And I think about one where I did a really dangerous drive in Afghanistan. And it's like, if I would have just been like, you know what? Positivity means I don't need to wear this burqa to hide my identity. I'm just going to smile my way. I wouldn't have made it. Like it's
so the smile will not carry you through every geographic location you've been to.
No, but also not through every geographic location like people that we know are going through, right? Like a smile is not going to carry you through the real dangers of your daily life.
It will not. And if you're thinking that that's the case, what are you missing out on? Because if you're conditioning your brain to only be positive, then you're actually not paying attention to things that surround you. And I mean, my gosh, the situations you've been in and you've led teams in these really intense environments, what are people missing if they're just being toxic Pollyannas?
Well, you're talking about the checkpoint thing. You are missing the person who is watching you with less than positive intent, which I've seen. I've been in situations in China where if you're watching properly, lots of people are being super friendly, and I was smiling. And there's a guy on the edge of the crowd who is watching us, and he's not looking at us with the eyes of friendship, holding out the hand of friendship, as Wonder Woman would say. And it is seeing that means that we were able to plan for the fact that he was going to do what he did, which was call the police and call intelligence. Right? So you're not seeing those. And I just want to make sure people understand that can happen in your own life, right? If you are feeling uncomfortable, we often talk about the gift of fear. Fear is a gift. And if you are feeling fear when you're on a street late at night, don't just assume it's going to be okay. Listen to the fear, right? And I think you would support that as a brain scientist, that's a signal. And I wondered if what you're saying is that we actually are training our brains not to listen to signals that are really important.
That's exactly right. Because not only fear, but these other emotional responses give you signals that something needs attention. And when you're not listening to those signals, you're missing out on not just safety issues, but you're missing out on, do you need to calibrate your behavior? Do you need to attend more to this person than to this person's needs? And as a leader, part of your job is to pay attention to what's happening around you. And if you're only attending to one thing, positivity, you're missing out on the needs of everybody, what the situation requires, and how to move forward. And that's a fast road to nowhere. And
it is. It's just, sorry. No,
I was going to say, interestingly, research shows too that toxic positivity actually increases your own anxiety. So people think that they're feeling good by being positive to the max, but actually it's increasing your anxiety. And it's really, really detrimental to coping with daily life and being able to set goals, reach goals, move forward. You kind of get stuck in this positivity loop.
I'm really curious about that. Because I think I've probably experienced that a little bit. I'm sure you have. I'm sure we can know it and we still do it, right? That's the, it's like for a lot of us. But I think it has this tendency to freeze us because, I always say presence is contact with reality. And reality is what allows us to make good choices, whether we're making them for ourselves or for lots of other people. And if we are essentially trying to make something be what it isn't, right? Like perfect. We're trying to make it be the way it would need to be for us to be relentlessly positive, irrationally positive, then we end up being frozen in a lot of ways, right? We don't feel like we can act. We don't feel like we can, it's like, okay, well, you know what? As soon as the Janjaweed is defeated, that's a militia that has now become the RSF in Sudan, then I'm going to carry on and rebuild my business. And and that's never going to, not never going to happen, but not currently. And I think about in my own life, if I was waiting if I was just kind of all right, I feel great, I feel good all the time. I don't know that actually takes a lot of energy as well. Doesn't that take a lot of brain energy?
It takes a lot of brain energy because when something is actually wrong and yet you're constantly telling yourself that it's positive, that's incongruous emotion happening in your brain. Your brain's kind of fighting to detect what's really going on there. And that's taxing, takes up a lot of energy, takes up a lot of resources, increases cortisol production in your brain. That's stress. That's a stress hormone. And we know that stress hormone cortisol hijacks your brain's prefrontal cortex and decreases your ability to make good decisions, to problem solve, to really be a leader. And I'm really curious thinking about some experiences you've had because you've experienced a lot of things involving leadership and toxic positivity that you've seen happen. Have you seen situations where a leader just thinks they have to be positive and it hasn't worked or it's backfired?
Yeah, I think often if people are going through transformation, right? So this is more about big transformations. Then there's this thing that if you don't toe the line and tell everyone it's absolutely perfect, then they aren't going to be able to come with you. And I'm really curious to hear what you have to say about this, because I'll tell you what I experienced trying to lead with it is that if you sit with a group of people that you're leading and watch them absorb an announcement that is cuts to their ability to do their work, cuts to their ability to do their job, cuts to some of the people maybe in the room. And it is framed as, this is amazing. It's the best thing that's ever happened. It's all about the good. People don't take that in the way you think they're going to. It doesn't mean that nobody has resentment, that nobody resists, that everybody just gets the why and goes for it. They don't trust you. Number one, they don't trust you because they're like, are they insane that they can't see we're losing jobs?
Yeah.
Number two, the people who are then there to put the how into place are frozen because they're like, well, I can't tell them what's really happening for me. I can't tell them this is hard or that I'm not sure or that I'm scared. And that they stop working as hard or as well or as creatively because the trust breaks down and the communication breaks down. And the whole project starts to fall apart. So even if it actually is an amazing project, right? The fact that you haven't allowed space for other true things, for there to be water that is out of the glass, means that the people who might be your high performers who you are expecting to push this through, and I've been the person who's trying to help these people push it through, you are essentially you're hobbling them because you aren't allowing them to tell you the truth about what's going on with them. And that's what frees people up to perform. So that's what I've experienced. I'm interested to hear the mental side of that it's my experience is that if you don't let people be in that space, they aren't going to be able to deliver.
I love this. You're saying that toxic positivity can screw up even the most amazing project.
It absolutely can. And like you think you're doing it for the right reason, right? You think like, well, we're just going to like cover, it's like a shield. It's a shield against all the badness, but it isn't, right? It's more like you're just kind of keeping all the bad in. You're not letting it breathe. And if you actually allow people to tell you, even when you think we're on a really tight deadline, and this I've also done when we've been in dangerous places or when we're trying to deliver the news, if you allow people to say, I don't like that, or if that person chews that way one more time, I'm walking out of this edit. You know, like I have had that where it's like, you know, it's funny, right, what people get upset about. But if you allow for a little of that, it's like it allows breathing room. And then people can be like, okay, how do I buy into this? How do I make this work? But
yeah, I love this.
So I'm interested to know, like, does that track with what you understand scientifically, or how does that play?
Oh, completely. You know, your comment about breathing room is so important because that breathing room really allows your brain to reset and adjust and recalibrate based on what you thought was going to happen and what's currently happening. And so this is so interesting. When people are toxic Pollyannas, it actually shows through. And we can detect that. We're social beings. And one of the easiest ways it shows through is, you know, your face reflects what's happening in your brain. Your face reflects your biology. And there's something that's known as the Duchenne smile. And this is an authentic, genuine smile. And Melanie, have you noticed when some people smile, you get the little wrinkles in the corner of your eye? Have you noticed that?
Yes, and sometimes they stay.
And sometimes they stay, but that when people smile and get the little wrinkles in the corner of their eyes, that is a biological hallmark of an authentic smile. And interestingly, when people smile, but don't have, I mean, that looked creepy, right? When people smile and they don't, when people smile and they don't have that, that's a biological signal to us that it is an inauthentic smile, that they don't mean it. And the really important thing, that's a trust signal. It means that we can't trust them. So there are these obvious facial signals and bodily signals that reflect what's happening inside with toxic positivity. And also people understand with how we say words, our vocal inflection, and other signals, other social signals, that this person is being irrationally positive. And that's a signal to my brain that I can't trust them. And now all of a sudden, instead of listening to what this leader has to say, listening to what this person has to say, my threat detection system gets activated in my brain.
Amazing.
And I'm not paying attention to what they're saying as if it's valid. I'm paying attention to what they're saying so that I can glean how much danger I'm in. And that is probably the last situation any leader wants to be in. I mean, being a leader is hard. It's really hard, but trust is really important. And being rationally positive and allowing those hard situations to happen is absolutely crucial.
Well, I mean, it is about...
Go ahead.
No. I mean, I love that. I love the trust signals and the idea that the threat detection system to me is fascinating.
It's really important.
Because that is where I would talk about like a genuine smile. We were going back to where we were earlier, that, you know, a smile can do a lot. A genuine smile can do a lot. And I have used a genuine smile all over the world to walk in and meet someone where they are, not speaking the language, and let them know I'm not a threat. I'm open. I'm here to talk to them, and create a bond.
Mm-hmm.
And when they start to tell me about something painful, I don't keep smiling and saying, wow, that's amazing. Because that would break the connection that allows them to be sharing something important and unusual with me. It is about being responsive. And the same thing then holds true when you are leading with people, right? Like it is, you need to set the tone, And you need to be responsive to where these folks are. Like, if somebody doesn't believe your smile, like, actually don't smile. Like, I know a grumpy,
That's
like a
exactly
real
right.
grump. Do we not know a few grumps?
We
And
do,
I
we
would
do.
say, don't you think it's better to be a real grump?
Yeah, if you're a grump and that's your nature, be that way because that's authentic to you. And it's not about authenticity as a way to convey positivity. It's about
Mm.
letting people know what to expect. So we've talked about this before, but our brains are prediction machines. And when we're able to predict how someone's going to behave, we actually trust them more.
Yeah.
But if we have somebody who's grumpy or curmudgeon, all of a sudden talking about rainbows and kittens and puppies and gleefully exclaiming what's happening in the world, we might wonder if they have a brain tumor or if something's wrong with them.
I had a
So,
boss, one of my favorite bosses, who really, like, he's like rural New Zealand folk. And so, like, very dry. And he came up to me and hugged me. And I was so shocked because I guess my brain is a prediction machine. Like, it was a congratulatory hug, like, you did it. And I was so shocked I didn't know what to do. And then I learned to expect that about once every 18 months, I would do something that was hug worthy, or he'd be in the mood to hug.
so your brain became really good at predicting this anomalous behavior also.
It was still weird. It was still weird to me because, but he wasn't, he was quite good. One thing he was very good at as a leader is he wasn't always good at being positive enough, because you do have to be able to set out a positive vision. Like, we're not saying be negative only.
Right, absolutely.
You can set out a positive vision of where you are going. Like, look, I have done this where I'm like, okay, everybody, we've got 3 hours. We just landed. We've got no money. We've got no food, and we're going to do it. You know,
So I love your enthusiasm there. And I think a lot of people are concerned that they're trying to be positive because that's the tone they want to set. And they're afraid that if they allow some negativity in, even if that's the truth and even if that's real, that'll cause kind of everybody in the room to spiral toward negativities. What would you recommend for how to handle that?
well, I think there's a difference between allowing theirs and yours.
Ooh, that's big.
I think as a leader, you need to make room for other people's feelings and other people's moments to a degree, right? You have to, so we've got 3 hours and it's like, all right, everybody, I'm going to take care of this. At the end of the day, I have your back. So depending on the risk level, right? It's like, I'm going to take care of you. I have told you this is where we're going, and I'm going to make sure we get there, and I'm going to support you. And on the other end, it is going to be the best chicken and rice you've ever had. There was a lot of chicken and rice as a reward. Or during the Arab Spring, I worked with a cameraman who loved to smoke shisha. And I had a travel shisha that he would get after we made our deadline. But like, in terms of being afraid of letting the bad in, it's like, okay, within limits, like, you're still setting boundaries, and that gives people what they expect. You set boundaries, but you also make room. So if somebody needs to come and talk to you, then they can come and talk to you. But you're not saying to them, oh, by the way, I'm really worried that this is never going to happen. And what if I get fired? Like, you're not putting that extra pressure onto people that you're already expecting a lot from. Now, did that mean that I occasionally went and cried in the radio studio? Yes, I did occasionally go and cry in the radio studio. But it is also why it's important, if you're a leader, to allow it, because people will hide what is going on from you if you don't make it clear that things are allowed. And then
I love this. I love this. You're saying boundaries are so important, and we know that boundaries make your brain feel safe. And also, I love that you're saying you're giving a little reward, a little chicken dinner at the end, and that's letting people know that the negativity is not permanent. It is temporary. So bad things are not always forever. They are temporary, and something good will happen at the end of that. And maybe that's a chicken dinner.
Maybe it's chicken dinner. Maybe it's a travel shisha. Shisha is like those little water pipes. If, in case you don't know, sorry, not everybody may be familiar with the great joy of the Middle East, which is people sitting around smoking a water pipe, a tobacco water pipe. And it is like, I do think this is not to get rid of the light. It is just to allow the dark. And
yes, I love that.
That to me is what we're trying to do. And when you're talking about this cost, I really hope people are hearing that everything that people are writing down as, okay, this is what we need for ROI is, I feel like we're using a lot of business terms today. But it's true, because most of this is about driving something, right? People are using Toxic Pollyanna to drive something, but they're wrong about what the result is going to be. That is what you are telling them with actual science. And I am telling you this with, like, I don't want to tell the stories where I'm like, and that guy said it would be right, and then everyone died, because that's not a good story.
But she has those stories if you want. She has those stories. I've heard them.
But it's more like I mean, I've had my own experience where I was not allowed to be having a hard time. And I also was being a leader. And so I didn't have an outlet. And what that meant was that I didn't have a leadership environment that was letting me be honest. And I didn't have an ability. I wasn't going to put that on my team, because that would make me a bad leader. And so I was doing everything I could. I was, seeking outside help. I was doing all the balancing and the meditating and the dog walking I could do. But that started to eat me alive mentally. And, so then I was trying to do a difficult and dangerous job with the risk of decreased capacity, the risk that I was going to make bad choices. And that, I mean, I could see that, right? So I took every measure to make sure that was taken care of. But all I'm saying is that that's a real cost. If people are eating themselves alive with trying to pretend so that they aren't judged to be not positive, so they aren't judged, so that they aren't putting on to other people, they can make bad decisions. And that's going to cost you more than you're ever going to get from the look, everything is great drive.
Yeah, toxic positivity actually reduces your brain's ability to take on risk and evaluate risk accurately. Mm-hmm. Bad decisions, bad consequences.
Yeah. When you allow yourself to see the truth, and that is good and bad, then you can make better choices for a result that you want for yourself, for your organization, for your family. And you move. You just start to move, because you're able to say, okay, this is this step, then this is the next step. Whereas when you are looking at something that is essentially a delusional false picture, everything is like stepping into quicksand. Like the never-ending story, when the world is disappearing, that is what you're doing. When you're
delusion is rarely a good strategy.
That's one of our takeaways for this show. Delusion, not a good strategy. It's true, though. It's true.
It is true. And really, being a toxic Pollyanna, that's just delusion.
It's just delusion. And like, if you take away one thing, I hope you take away that. Like, it is not a leadership strategy. It is just delusion. A leadership strategy is to set a positive vision of what you want to create, to be relentless in looking for creative ways that you can move that forward. And as a leader, you allow people to feel negative about it, to have bad days, to have weaknesses and flaws. And you meet those and you let them know they're supported. And you recognize your own. because you have them. This is me pointing at myself. I have them. That to me is what you do. That is how you have positive leadership. That's what positive leadership looks like.
Agreed. I would say it's about relentlessly seeking reality, identifying where positivity belongs. That's great. We want to acknowledge it when it's there. And then acknowledging when it's not there, what we need to do.
Mm-hmm.
So finding out where the problems lie and addressing them with openness and honesty and candid reality. It's really important that we don't just look for good vibes. It's important that we look for honest vibes.
What's your vibe ending this show?
My vibe ending this show. Well, I want to say that back in 1960, I doubt that the makers of the movie Pollyanna with that adorable Hayley Mills had any idea the cultural zeitgeist they were creating decades later. And let's understand that while Pollyanna was an adorable little child, being a toxic Pollyanna is a recipe for disaster and a recipe for bad leadership. That's my vibe. What's your vibe?
I don't know if I could say it better. My vibe is admiration. My vibe is admiration. I just want you all to know you were not getting out of this show alive without learning about Pollyanna, the movie. And and I respect that deeply. No, that my vibe is admiration for you and I really hope that those of you out there who have been feeling like you've got to hold up the sky can just say, you know what, actually, it is so much smarter of me to be a little more realistically positive, but don't give up on the vision. Just give up on this idea that you've got to be some sort of like insane, delusional, super powered positive person.
Yeah, don't be glass entirely full. Just be glass half full.
Yeah. And with that, let us know a time that you have maybe experienced either pushing folks to be positive or pushing yourself to be positive, and how that's working out for you. And what is one way that a little more contact with reality has helped? Like, follow, subscribe, and we will be here next week. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.